Because a 9-to-5 is a fixed contract, any effort you give beyond the job description is essentially a donation to your employer.
Yeah. So I am a strict follower of the motto, do the bare minimum. Do not break your back over these jobs. I don't give a fuck. Is YouTube harder than a 9-to-5? No. By 噚. Like I just said, no. It's not. There's nothing to debate about there. I shouldn't even have to explain why it's not. Just know it's not. All right, let's get right into this shit, bro.
Most people think that YouTubers just sit inside, fiddling their worm in front of a mic and camera all day and make millions, whereas 9-to-5 workers are slaves who waste their lives inside of a cubicle. I mean, they're not entirely wrong. However, this question is much deeper than the number of hours you work or the softness of one's hands. In fact, according to 3 of the most influential psychological studies in organizational psychology, the hardest part of a job isn't the job itself, but the effect that stress of a job brings to a worker. But what is stress?
Wait,
Let me
what?
explain. First, we have to look at who is doing the work. This is the person.
I'm not gonna lie, I've seen that picture. Who is that? I don't know who this is, but whenever they talk about like aging, they always put up her picture. If that's how you aging and you're 24, Jesus Christ, bro.
Person-environment fit theory. It suggests that stress doesn't come from the job itself, but from the friction between your personality and your surroundings. Essentially, workers perform best and feel the least amount of stress when their individual needs, values, and skills align with the environmental characteristics of the job they work in. According to the study, those in 9-to-5 jobs are most commonly affected by supplementary misfit, which is when the demands of a certain job do not align with a person's values or personality traits. For example, if an introvert is forced into high-stakes sales, where one bad quarter could be the difference between being employed and being KD. This misfit of character traits would cause an overexpenditure of emotional labor to bring themselves up to the level that they need to achieve their targets, increasing the emotional load on the worker day to day and their feelings of stress as a result. This can also bring the insecurity of complementary misfit, in which the more replaceable and under threat an employee feels, the more stress they feel under to perform. In other words, massive cortisol spike. However, the 9-to-5 does have a catch, which is separation. While this can make an employee feel caged, it can also bring a sense of security for many, in which once you punched out, your time is more or less yours. The same.
But I mean, that's the thing with YouTube though, and he's probably about to get into this, is like, bro, your time is yours all the time, bro. It's literally just how you choose to use it. In my opinion, if you're doing this full time, YouTube or streaming or whatever, it's not really like a job. I'm assuming that you're doing it because you enjoy it. Like, I don't see anybody doing this shit because they don't enjoy it, but like, you're being creative, you're doing shit to express yourself. I feel like there's not really anything to argue about with that, bro. You're free in a way. Not gonna lie, and you get paid good enough to do it. Like I always say, like if I ever start to make money off of this shit, I don't want to be like super rich, bro. I just want enough to just like live comfortable, bro. I'm cool with like 70 or 80K a year. I'm cool with that. That's all I need for real.
It can't be said for the YouTuber who, unlike 9-to-5ers who are burdened with external compliance, the YouTuber's fit in this model is an internal identity struggle. But why? Well, it all starts with the algorithm. The YouTube algorithm is a constantly moving and unpredictable target, judging millions of videos against each other to bring the content that you, the viewer, will find the most interesting. Essentially, the algorithm is the boss constantly evaluating the performance of your uploads, and the moment your content falls out of alignment with what the audience finds interesting, no HR meeting, no warning, you're fired! The algorithm doesn't hesitate to make room for more interesting content. This can cause a YouTuber to tweak their individual style to match the environment for higher views. However, this can also lead to a feeling of pressure to conform to a certain identity in order to get more views. That friction creates a constant low-level cortisol spike for the creator that leaves them feeling unfulfilled and out of place within their own job. And because
alright, I get that. So it's basically like that you not having that sense of job security, basically. Like the algorithm basically dictates whether or not you still get paid, which I understand that. But I feel like that's just like a part of it, bro. Like that's part of the game. Like if this is what you want to do, you gotta like have a love for that shit at the end of the day. And then I feel like you should also have like that willing to adjust your content and to like branch out into other shit, bro. Like I feel like that's kind of like pointless to just sit there and beat the dead horse over and over again, like unless like it's working for you. But I feel like you should always be trying to like grow and evolve your shit. You feel me?
you are the brand, this identity crisis is something you can never clock out of, recharge, and come back to. But even if you fit your role perfectly, there's a lot more that can influence the difficulty of your job. And this brings us to the job demand control model, represented by this matrix right here. This model highlights that stress increases when the demand of a job exceeds the amount of control a worker has over it. So when a person has a passive job, one that fits the low control, low demand quadrant, it can lead to stress cultivated through boredom, stagnation, and an atrophy of high value value skills that can leave an employee feeling trapped, purposeless, and expendable. An active job, on the contrary, is the holy grail in this model, creating an environment for the worker in which their skills are challenged in a manner that allows them to express themselves freely through their work, lowering stress and cortisol spikes. Now, most 9-to-5s exist in the high-strain quadrants, in which the mental, physical, and/or intellectual efforts of the job are pretty high. However, this next point is interesting. The amount of control one has over the work they do can either minimize or exacerbate the negative feelings a worker has toward their job. For example, making burgers and taking orders at McDonald's isn't necessarily a demanding task in and of itself. However, when it comes to the physical and emotional burden of dealing with angry customers or keeping up with a busy workload, the environment created by these—
That's what I'm saying, bro. This shit isn't a question, bro. Having the freedom to sit there and express yourself and deal with nobody but yourself if you choose to, versus going into a fucking like a customer service job, say it like a fucking department store or a fast food spot, bro. It's not even a question, bro. Like the physical burden, the emotional burden, the physical burden, like, bro, no. You're putting your life at risk sometimes because you never know when the fuck a fucking crazy ass nigga's gonna come in and just wild out. Like, no, bro. It's not, this isn't a conversation that we should even be having, for real, for real. Like, I feel like that's just common sense. And most of these people that be saying like streaming or content creation is harder than 9-to-5 have never worked one a day in their life.
Raises the demand of the job significantly and can lead to higher levels of stress. On the other hand, a software developer might feel intellectually burdened by the difficulty of creating a $1 million app for their company, but the creative freedom that they have over their work can increase the positive feelings they have about their job. But what about content creation? Well, you may think that because content creators have total creative freedom over what they put out, this should be a straightforward answer, right? Well, not exactly. See, a YouTuber may be able to post whatever they want, but as you said earlier, that doesn't necessarily mean it will do well, even for the largest creators on the platform. And when you do something that the algorithm doesn't like, it pushes your content out to make room for a creator who creates more interesting content. Suddenly, you aren't dealing with angry customers.
But that's like what I just said, though. That's like the thing about it, is that you gotta be willing to evolve your content and adjust with certain shit, bro. The same way you get bored over a job over time, if you're just doing the same shit over and over again, people are going to get bored watching you do the same shit over and over again. Okay, you grew your audience like by doing that. Unless that's what they're actively demanding for. Well, even if that is what they're demanding for, I feel like you should still be trying to, like, all right, like me for say, like I do reactions, so I get to the point where like I built up a good audience. I'm getting like decent views on my shit. I shouldn't just settle for being, all right, I got reactions, that's all I can do. Like I should be trying to like expand my shit into different like avenues, bro. Like I could try to make like commentary videos, or I could try to do gaming shit. Like it don't matter if it, like, you should always try to expand your shit, bro. Like you're gonna get the same result. Like that's a part of the challenge, I feel like.
Or your bitchy boss, Steve, but rather hinging the success of your channel on an autonomous AI model that could shadow ban or demonetize you in an instant. Now, if you're in a niche that you like—
I will say that though, that's like the one like fucked part that I can't like make up anything to excuse. Like that algorithm shit is hell. I ain't gonna lie.
And
that
feel passionate about. Much like a job, this can very easily be considered an active job. However, how many channels could this be the case for? 0.54%, maybe even less. So we've looked at the person and the power dynamics behind stress at work, but psychology shows that humans can endure almost anything if there's a perceived benefit at the end of it. But what happens if that work feels meaningless? This feeling describes the effort-reward balance, when perceived efforts aren't rewarded to the level the workers feel they should. When you analyze stress through this lens, you're looking at whether the payoff is worth the pain. But here's the catch. ḻ�ᴜᴜ, the creator of this model, identified a personality pattern called overcommitment. This trait is a personal coping mechanism in which a person either views their job as a means to an end, for instance, working a part-time job, or the worker has an internal drive to work harder than necessary due to an internal need for approval or control, even when the perceived rewards are low.
Because if I lose my job, I have nothing!
In other words, overcommitment is a spectrum of choice that puts a worker at a higher risk for depression and poor mental health. For the overcommitted 9-to-5er, stress may be high, but has a safety net. Because the rewards are contractual and guaranteed, the stakes are contained. And although the 9-to-5 might cap your ceiling, leaving a worker feeling increasingly caged the harder they overcommit, the floor is at least there to catch you. But there is a psychological cost to that safety: resentment. Because a 9-to-5 is a fixed contract, any effort you give beyond the job description is essentially a donation to your employer. And Segrist argues that when you're
that's why I'm a strict follower of the motto, do the bare minimum, gang. Like they do not, like, bro, and these companies do not give a fuck about you at all. Like they all say the same shit. Oh, we're a family. We're all, you should always like look to us. We can help you. They do not give a fuck about you, bro. Like they could give the slightest fuck. Same shit. I had a boy at my job. His fucking, I think his mom was in the hospital. or his mom had just like some shit had happened. The nigga tried to leave early to go help, bro. They wasn't gonna let him leave, bro. Wasn't gonna let him leave. Like at the same time, when we doing like a switch in like management or whatever, when it was time for him to come into work, wasn't trying to let him come in because his shit wasn't processed. Couldn't give him no hours at another, nothing, bro. Like, these companies don't give a fuck about you. So I am a strict follower of the motto, do the bare minimum. Please do the bare minimum.
Effort isn't met with.
Do not break your back over these jobs. I don't give a fuck. I don't. You cannot convince me otherwise.
The form of reciprocity, like a promotion or even just a thank you, it creates a sense of systemic injustice. Like, you did all that work, you're tired, you're bitter, and you're just watching the company profit off the very energy that is burning you out without any type of reward. But content creation, it's a career of massive imbalance, and the rewards are never guaranteed, creating probably the biggest stressor for a majority of creators and any other self-employed profession, a gambler's stress in contrast to the 9-to-5 stress of stagnation. When you're on YouTube, you could work 24/7, and if the algorithm doesn't deem your videos interesting, it won't reward you accordingly. This, according to the model, can lead to lower motivation to work, lower feelings of job security, and in turn, higher levels of stress. So with all this information in mind, what's the verdict? Which is actually harder? Well, the truth is that the same person can thrive in one job, but feel like hell on earth in the other. So in other words, you got clickbaited! But really you didn't, because I believe that this is the definitive answer, and the reason most people can only answer this question anecdotally. What you deem as harder or more stressful depends entirely on your individual value, and not just the comparison of flipping burgers versus sitting at home all day fiddling your worm. If you value autonomy and an infinite growth ceiling, the 9-to-5 will feel like a cage in which the lack of control will be your primary source of stress. If you value security and psychological boundaries, the creator's life will feel like a nightmare. The lack of a clock out time and the volatile rewards will burn you out in months. So all in all, what we deem as hard isn't really competition, it's a choice of trade-offs. The 9-to-5 trades your freedom for security, while content creation trades your security for freedom and control of what you do and when you do it. Doing both will cost you something, but the question is—
and I ain't gonna lie, I feel like that's the way we should be living, bro. I feel like having that risk is like kind of good. You feel me? Like, bro, I'm sorry, but I can't rock with nobody that's just cool, like being stuck like that. Like, it's cool, like you do shit because you gotta do it. I get that. But if you don't want nothing more than yourself than to just clock in and clock out, like you don't got side hustle, none of that, I can't get with that, bro. Like, bro, do something, gang. Like, that's why I be trying to tell my niggas now, do some type of content creation, do something, like, bro, like, just try. It don't even matter if you fail, just try, bro, because this shit ain't it. At least for me, it isn't
which is easier, but rather which trade are you willing to sign. And as always, thank you for watching, and always remember that I do not give a fuck whether this upset you or made you disagree, so please stop typing.
Nah, I fuck with that nigga. What the fuck? Nah, I fuck with that nigga, bruh. That was a W video. You gotta subscribe out of me. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, bro, like I just said, gang, to me this isn't a fucking debate. Obviously you're entitled to your own opinion, blah blah blah. I don't give a fuck, but I feel as though if you're saying that a 9-to-5 is easier than doing YouTube or any type of content creation, then I don't know. Maybe you just lack that creativity, or you just don't like to take risk or something. I don't know. Do you, gang? Honestly, do you? Just do whatever the fuck makes you happy. W video.
Get them going, coughing up the slugs. Niggas for money.